just hand out free U.S. Constitutions.
Okay. So you know where the free speech zone is, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's just where we do all of our things. And I know it's kind of confusing in the first week because we've had a number of different students trying to hand out different things in this area, and we're trying to make all students aware of our policies. So you can hand out in table at the Hawk. That's kind of like your go-to place to go.
The dining hall?
Yeah.
Okay. Inside the dining hall, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then we just keep
And we have to get approval for that?
It's really easy. Sorry, there was a bee like...
Oh, you're fine.
Coming. And they do it every day during meal periods and throughout the day as well to be able to table and talk to students and be able to do that.
So why can't I stand out here and talk to students and hand out constitutions?
Great point. This is our residential area, and so we have very specific guidelines for where we are and are not allowing canvassing and tabling to happen. And so that's why it's all in the Hawk.
Well, we're not canvassing or tabling. We are just handing out U.S. Constitutions.
I understand.
To explain, free speech, actually. This is why we're out here.
Yep.
And being on a public university, on a sidewalk that I can get to from the road, I have every right to be here as a taxpayer and as a student. So I don't understand why...
As a student, you can be here, but that's why we have the free speech space that's at the union to do things just like this. And that's a very easy space for you to do it in. And that's just where we ask all of our students and any of our staff members or anyone else in the community that wants to do anything, that they do it at the union. And I would appreciate it if you would turn that off, please, because I have not authorized you to record me at all. And I would also appreciate it if you would delete it, because again, I did not authorize you to record it at all.
Okay.
And if you are doing the same, I would appreciate it if you did not.
Okay. We're not going to move.
Okay.
Thank you for coming down here and talking to us and explaining the unconstitutional policies on campus, but we're not going to move.
So can I have your name?
No, I'm not comfortable with that.
I just need to follow up with your advisor in that regard.
Once again, I'm really not comfortable with that.
Okay. So what group are you with then?
We're starting a new group on campus called Students for Concealed Carry.
Students for what?
Concealed Carry.
Okay. Do you have an advisor for that?
No, like I said, we're starting it.
Okay. Usually, just when a student organization starts a group, they usually have an advisor to start kicking.
Yeah, we have
Part
to
of that is getting 10 signatures so that we can get club approval.
Definitely. Okay.
So we're on top of it.
Okay. Have you been working with Danielle Mancuso and like?
Yeah, she's well, because I've started several clubs on campus, so she's aware of me, and I've told her that we're probably going to start issuing this process. She's like, as long as you get, go through the steps. So.
Right.
And we're doing that.
Definitely. I'm just asking that you move it to the union because this is not the space for you to do it.
Okay.
So if you're not going to move, then I have to talk with my director about that.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, sounds good.
It looks like
1%. And it's not accessible for a lot of students.
Is it accessible for all students? Which is why it's there.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So to do this, you've received no approval. For all tabling, it's in the Hawk. And doing this is not working with housing, it's not doing anything with housing.
Okay.
So I've asked this young lady, who will not give me her name, to take the group to the union. Been told no. I'm asking you the same thing as ASSU president to respect the policies that we have here. And I have to go talk with my director now, and I'm probably going to have to talk with Jen as well, because we have our free speech zone. I understand that you may not like it, but that's where it is.
Well, as a student, we have the right to fight that.
Right, definitely.
So that's what we're doing.
But it's not here.
To fight the free speech zone? Would you rather us fight it at the free speech zone? Because that's redundant.
I understand that. But there are policies that were put in place to have the free speech zone.
You're right, and now we are fighting those policies as activists on this campus.
I understand that.
So.
But have you talked with any of those people who have created policy or done any of those things?
There's been conversation with Tim over the summer about why these policies were implemented specifically for this.
Okay.
But I wasn't really given clarity. I'm more than willing on having more of these conversations.
Definitely.
This is one of the things that ASSOU decided we're going to campaign on.
And I understand that.
So we are here to speak for the students. And like I said, we're not moving, and thank you again for talking to us and then going around and talking to us again. So.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Hey, man.
What's in the name?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I hear they'd asked you guys to do it in the free speech area over at the Union. Is that accurate? Were they kind and nice about it, or
No.
were they? Okay, that I can apologize if they weren't, but I mean, it is set up in in the university bylaws that that's the place to do the free speech stuff. This is not one. So, so ultimately, and then I'd heard that you had said I said it was okay, and I'm like, I didn't say that. So, did you and I have a conversation at some point that maybe it was misunderstood?
I never heard you say
emails. I remember the emails that were sent with the policies last year. That was about all.
Right.
Emails.
Yeah, there's some policies on how to use the space up there and the space in here, but it was never a free open free speech area.
And that's kind of what we're petitioning here. We're petitioning getting the entire campus to be free speech accessible.
And I can respect that, but I think this is the wrong place to do it. I think probably the right place to do that would be through ASSOU and through that avenue, and then have that conversation with administration. But I mean, because the policy is already set for the campus, and I think that's regardless of how CPS handled it. I think the reality here is that they're just trying to enforce what's already in play, and I think that's where we have to be respectful of that. That's already there. If you want to change it, I think we go about changing it. But
so, are you willing on sitting down, you, myself, and a bunch of other folks, y'all willing to come together?
Well, I think I don't want to speak for the whole administration. I think this is a university policy. So I mean, as far as me sitting down and having a conversation, sure, I'd have it, but it doesn't mean I necessarily support doing it. Is that what you're asking me?
I'm just asking if you'd be in support of getting together and having a conversation about changing that policy and making our entire campus free speech accessible.
I think there's some benefits to that, but I also think I'd want to see exactly what we want to do. So as far as if you're asking me if I'd be willing to speak about it, sure. If you're asking me if I'd support it, I don't think I could say yes or no at this point.
Okay.
Because clearly there's a number of reasons why it exists, and I think we need to look at all those, good, bad, or indifferent, because it's not just about the free speech of students. When you open it up to free speech, that means anyone, anywhere can come on here and do that, and that may create some other challenges for this campus that we're not prepared to manage.
But it's a public university, so anyone, anyway, can come onto any of the sidewalks.
They can. Yeah. They can come on here, but there's also some guidelines within it, because they're also not members of this campus. So at the same time.
No, but they've basically
found the campus. Are you filming me, by the way?
Yeah.
I would very much appreciate if you don't, because you need my permission to do so. So
I don't think I do.
I would like you to stop, please.
Okay, I'm not going to do it.
Okay, then our conversation's over. Since he's not willing to stop doing that, I think I was respectful enough asking him not to do that. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Do you think it's reasonable? Do you think it's? Yeah, he does. But do you think it's reasonable for me to ask him not to?
Yeah, definitely reasonable.
Okay. That is your free speech, which is why we're out here petitioning.
It's my request. Okay, I also have the right to tell him not to. Okay, so at this point, are you guys planning on moving up to the Union for this or not?
And to be dependent on everyone else, but I don't think we are.
Okay. I think as long as the shade's here, we're staying. At least that's my biggest thing.
So you guys are not willing to follow the policy that exists now, and you're gonna violate that policy to try to make a point? Is that what I'm understanding?
Absolutely. That's how protests and things change in America.
I don't know if that's necessarily accurate, but you're entitled to that opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess if they're going to be difficult and move you guys along, you guys just need to be prepared for that.
Okay.
Okay?
Have a good day.
I'd very much like you to leave, if you would, please. And because again, the students have the right to have the ability to come by here without you guys invading their space and asking them to do so. Okay?
Yeah, and in fact, I definitely appreciate that, but we haven't been told by a student that we're affecting them in any way. In fact, they've been more than willing on listening to us.
Pages.
Okay.
But I appreciate that. Thank you.
But it's a public university.
What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
More self-funded by students internally, and so.
But if I can get, and the law says if I can get anywhere from the road on a sidewalk, then I can be in it, as long as I'm not in a building.
Well, I'm not trying to and I see you're filming me. One thing, so since we're talking about the law, in Oregon, you're actually required to notify people when you're recording audio.
Not on a public university because
when you're recording audio, if you want to use it for court, you are. So I'm letting you know.
I'm not using it for court.
If you wanted to use something for court, and you want to actually be that submissible, you just got to tell me.
Okay.
That's all. So.
We're only here because we got a complaint.
Yeah, and so you're making a student feel uncomfortable to go into their dorm, and so.
We didn't go in any dorms.
No.
Oh, okay.
They were going to their dorm.
Oh, I thought you said we were in the dorms.
They felt uncomfortable and pressured by you guys, and so we're coming here asking you guys to move to the free speech area where we ask everyone to do it.
How big is the free speech area?
About this size, and it's actually a better place because you're actually where the commuter students get lunch, and you're in the core of campus where all the academic buildings are. Right here, you're only getting dorm students.
But this is a public university, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have my facts wrong, that, you know, as a public university, I can be where I want as long as I'm not in the buildings.
Well, with some like, we closed the stadium, and that's not, you can't go in there after hours.
Yeah, inside the stadium. That's different. It's inside of a building.
It's not a building though. It's not a structure. You know what I mean? It's got fences. So.
Well, that's a structure because it's fenced. There's no fence around here. I can get here from the road. That's the problem.
Okay. So could you guys move to the free speech area for me? Make the residents here feel a little more comfortable with the situation.
If we don't move to the free speech area, what happens?
I'm gonna have to call Ashland Police Department, and then it's gonna get a little more complicated into like what you guys are doing here, and the fact that housing says you haven't got permission from them to be in the dorm area here. So the only other folks I need to go talk to is the kitchen staff. Have you talked to them?
No.
Okay. So.
Because we just talked to the AC on duty, and she said if we don't come out here and tell you, then she's going to. So maybe if you'd like to talk to her, because she knows more about housing specific policies.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable moving since it's a public university, so I don't think we're gonna move.
Okay. We'll be back then.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks.
Do is try to get the whole campus free speech, or is there some other task
one
of
our chosen priorities? Yeah.
Student government.
Was ranked by student government or by the students?
By student government.
By student government.
But from the sign of the look of these signatures, I think the students agree.
Huh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for signing.
Have you guys been sharing both sides of the? Have you been sharing the policy as a campus before you've been getting signatures?
Yeah, we explained that less than 1% of campus is currently a free speech zone. We explained to them where that is, and then we're saying that we're trying to change campus policy to open up free speech on all of campus.
Have you explained why that policy exists? Is what I'm asking.
Well, the great thing about that is,
do you guys have any idea why it does exist?
No administration has told us why it exists. Only administration has told us that we can't be here.
Interesting. Who have you talked to from the administration? If you don't mind me asking?
So we talked to campus security.
Okay.
We talked to you now.
Okay.
We've talked to Allyson.
Okay.
Keep wanting to call her Ashley.
So have you guys talked with the, when I say
and then you talked to
have you guys
more than
talked
that.
to Craig? Have you talked to the president? Have you talked to the people that have set these policies?
Yeah, we've talked to folks within student affairs.
Okay.
So we talked to, I believe her name is Taylor Burr.
Okay. Have you talked with Jennifer?
A little bit.
You guys all kind of not report, but she's your advisor. Have you guys talked to her about that?
Yeah, but for one thing, we're not here today as student government.
Okay.
And for another, we don't believe that campus policy can trump the Constitution and our constitutional rights. Okay. So, you know, no matter what the campus policy is, we think that first and foremost, we are guaranteed constitutional rights. And so that's why we're out here.
Okay.
I am interested, though. What you were asking? We knew why.
Well, I just think if you're going to ask someone to sign a petition, it's always helpful if you're explaining both sides of the petition. Why the policy exists is certainly useful, as opposed to saying we want this. I mean, clearly, if I came up to you and said, "Do you want a brand new car?" you might say yes, but am I giving you the guidelines and the realities behind it?
I think that's different, though. A free car isn't a constitutional right.
Well,
free speech is a constitutional right.
It is, but if you're asking, do you want this whole campus to be free speech? You might want to know why it isn't.
So why isn't
before
it?
I'm asking you. If you're not explaining to him, you're asking someone to sign something without any information.
Well, now I'm asking you to explain it. Why isn't it all free speech?
Well, I can't speak for this institution, but I know a number of institutions do set that because they have other groups that come on this campus or come on campuses and create disruptions.
Okay.
Would you want the KKK here? Would you want, when you have a multicultural event here, let's say you're having, the events, let's say, Take Back the Night. Would you want people coming on here, just arguing, fighting that, disrupting that situation?
No, but I think that is part of a very healthy campus discourse to have both sides presented.
Exactly.
What you're asking
right,
us to
I'm
do.
saying I agree with you. We can have that, but to have it in a location might be more meaningful than to have it all over the campus and actually disrupt the event that's happening. If the event's happening inside the union, would you want that group to come in and disrupt that event, as opposed to have a location where they can voice their concern for it or their dislike for it.
We're not asking to be inside of buildings,
No,
but we do think
I know
that
you're
as
not,
public property.
But what
we
you're
have a
saying
right
to me
be
is
here.
free speech is everywhere then.
Yes, because
so
it
that's
is
inside buildings as well. Then it's inside
everywhere.
buildings as well.
No,
isn't
that's
it?
different because
Why?
buildings are not public property. This sidewalk right here is public property.
It isn't public property.
Yes, it is. Any sidewalk that I can get to from the street is public property.
That's not accurate. Okay, this property is owned by the institution.
Which is
in between
a
this
state
building
actor.
Sure, but you're saying public and state. I mean, I think we're arguing tit for tat here. The reality is it's owned by the state. The
And
state has regulations
the
over it.
The state is mandated to uphold our constitutional rights,
Okay.
which
means that the same thing would be occurred in the building. The union is owned by the state, so you're saying the same thing. I have the right to say and do whatever I want in that building, just like I would on this sidewalk. Am I missing that? Because they're both owned.
Well, the student union is a different thing. You don't have to use a fob to get into it. You don't have to show your ID to get into it. So yes, it is public property. The dorms are not.
It isn't public property.
The student union, it's owned by the state.
You're saying what? But okay, when it's open, then I can come in there and do whatever I want because it's now open to the public.
As long as you're not hurting anyone, absolutely.
Okay, well, I guess maybe we're not on the same page with this, but what I'm hearing is two different things. I'm hearing I can do it here because I'm outside, but I can't do it in a building. Did I misinterpret that?
Yeah.
I did? So you're saying you can have free speech anywhere on this campus?
No, I just explained that to you. Anywhere that I shouldn't have to show an ID or a fob to get into, like the dorms.
Okay.
Then yes.
But you don't have to show an ID or a fob to go into the student union.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. The student union should also be a free speech zone.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, that was probably misunderstood. Okay. Well, I think, if you're asking me why I think those policies exist on some campuses, is exactly what I just said. Because they want to manage the disruption that an outside group could cause. We are an inclusive environment, right? We're open to differences and individualities, right? Mm-hmm. So if all of a sudden someone came in here and came in with hate speech, hatred, or something of that nature, would we not?
Not constitutionally protected.
Oh, what do you mean it's not constitutionally protected? There
are categories of speech which are not constitutionally protected. We are not asking.
That's like you can't yell fire in a theater. Like,
we're not asking
that campus
uphold unconstitutional speech. But my right to be here, expressing my opinions in a way that is not disruptive to educational activities. It's neither severe, pervasive, or objectively offensive. I do have a constitutional right.
But you're now putting
what I think the problem is
around that constitutional
which the Supreme Court decided.
Before we get heated, it's the U.S. Constitution.
Oh, I have.
So I totally think you need to read it because it sounds like you don't understand the First Amendment.
Clearly, I don't.
Right. So this is why we're handing out the Constitution, so you can understand your Bill of Rights and what the Constitution says.
I already have one, but thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and you guys can continue to do what you choose to, but understand the consequences of it, okay? Mm-hmm. And I just would ask, if you're going to ask people to sign something up, make sure you give them both sides of it.
Yeah, we tell them where the free speech zone is and
clearly,
that there's a policy
explain
on
why
it.
The policy exists.
And honestly, you don't even understand why the policy exists either.
I didn't make the policy. I'm just telling you what it is, and I'm telling you why other campuses
So if our
have
administration like you doesn't understand it, why should we?
I didn't say I didn't understand it. I think you're being awful snide and very condescending. Is that something you're really good at, or are you just doing it because you're trying to...
I'm doing it because I'm getting aggressive. You're getting aggressive with me, and so I'm going to get aggressive back. Not really.
Well, I will let them continue to manage this, please.
Thank you.
Okay? Have a good day.